Hi, Jason Sulliman here. I wanted to talk a little bit today about sitting and seated posture. As a musician, it's inevitable. There's times where I'm going to have to sit and play my instrument. And a lot of times we use the phrase sit stand, where we want to try to retain as much of a standing posture as we can while seated. And though that's reasonably true, I feel like that falls short of really providing people with adequate information and resources to do the job well. So here's a little bit of more depth on that particular topic. Now, I'm sure we've all heard the phrase to sit up straight. And unfortunately, it's a misnomer. Our backs actually have a bit of a natural curvature to them. And so we don't want to think about it being a straight alignment. There is a natural curve. But one of the things that we can look at is research that's been done in ergonomics. There's actually a significant amount of research that was done for corporate America. A lot of large corporations were finding that they were making these huge payouts in short and long-term disability claims. And they wanted to figure out why. Most people are just sitting at an office desk. What is so painful about that? And repetitive stress injury is one way that we look at it as musicians. But even just sitting for long periods of time in a way that's not really conducive towards great alignment and relaxation can cause long-term damage to the body. Now, as a musician, I also want to sit well so I can breathe well and I can focus and I'm nice and relaxed so I can resonate and I'm going to play better. But looking at the ergonomic research, one of the biggest things that was kind of taken away from a lot of the different studies that were done was the seat pan angle. So behind me, you'll notice that there are two seats. One has essentially a flat seat pan angle, and that's basically going to be what you're going to get when you show up to a large ensemble room, no matter where you are. Unless you have fancy ergonomic chairs, that's basically what it is. That's a Wenger chair. Steelcase is another popular brand, and they're all basically a 0-degree seat pan angle. Well, this is what happens when you sit in a 0-degree seat pan angle. So in a chair like this, the most common thing you're going to see is there's going to be a rolling back of the hips and a rounding back of the spine. This is called lumbar kyphosis. The specific definition is anything over 50 degrees of angle bend within the upper body is called kyphosis. This is actually a really bad posture for the body, especially if you do it over prolonged periods of time. Now, in the short term as a musician, I'm not going to breathe as well. It's more difficult for me to hold my front-loaded instrument up in front of me. I'm going to lose focus. I'm going to feel back pain. I'm not going to resonate as well. So there's all sorts of reasons why we want to avoid this. Most people then do the whole, I'm going to try to sit up straight, and then they tense all sorts of muscles, especially in the back, to try to maintain a more upright posture. Well, the problem with that is now you're engaging muscles in an unnatural way. And that's extra bodily use. That's going to lead to pain down the road because anytime you over-engage muscles and then sustain that for long periods of time, that's the very recipe for developing repetitive stress injuries. So we want to try to avoid that as well. So instead, what I've started to do is I have started to take little pieces of wood and I've glued Velcro to them so I can attach them together and create different heights. And then I started getting some furniture casters, which are these little tiny things that go under the legs of furniture to keep them from like scuffing up hardwood floors, things like that. Affixed a little bit of Velcro to the back, so now I can just attach that to the top of a block. And I can change the angle of my seat pan. So the second chair is all set up and ready to go, how I've been using it lately, and I'll give you a little demo. So by removing this chair out of the way, and now I'm going to have a seat in my more ergonomic chair. So the back legs are raised considerably higher than the front legs, which means that the seat pan is actually on a decline. It's at a negative angle. So my hips are naturally forward just a little bit, which allows more of a lumbar lordosis type of shape into my spine. That natural curve that happens in my spine, it's just facilitated more easily. I don't have to tense my back up and try to sit up straight to make it happen. So with a more relaxed posture that's more aligned, I've got better breathing, better resonance, better focus, and less long-term pain from sitting for those long rehearsals. Breathing becomes much easier to do. So if you're in a position where you can get your hands on some cheap lumber, some scrap wood, some 2x4s, and just cut them down to little tiny pieces like this, about this size, maybe this, about the size of your hand. And then if you want to, if you feel like a need, you can get little furniture casters, strap them on there with a little bit of Velcro. I mean, we're talking $10, $15 worth of material. But if this is something you do on a regular basis, it's important, and you should consider making this short-term investment for long-term gains. So as you can see, I've got the wood blocks under the back legs here, and I've got smaller ones under the front legs here, because if you crank up the back legs, the front part of the chair can actually get so low that you create a little bit of a short chair. And so to make sure that everything is a little bit longer, I just kind of raise the whole thing up a little bit. But I highly recommend that you incorporate this into your usage of chairs. Thanks so much for watching. If you want more helpful tips on how to treat your body well so you can make your best music, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and visit www.jasonsulliman.com. Happy practicing and happy music making.